أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الصلاة والسلام على سيدنا نبينا خاتم المرسلين أبو القاسم محمد صلوات اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد وعلى آل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين الذين أذهب الله عنهم الرجس وطهرهم تطهيرا اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد أما بعد قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وآله وسلم إن الحسين مصباح الهدى وسفينة النجاة اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قال الله عز وجل نور على نور يهدي الله نوره من يشاء اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu, my dear viewers. I hope that I find you in the best of health and happiness. We have entered AYAM FATIMA. And so these few days of our calendar year, we are going to dedicate to pondering and contemplating upon the life of the Lady of Light, Bibi Fatima Zahra, Salamullahi alayha. These are the few days, the few nights that we have that we can ponder upon her life and then make our footsteps to fall on the footsteps of the Lady of Light, so that everything that we do is pleasing to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the program today is dedicated to the life and legacy of Bibi Fatima Zahra. We have also entered the new year. Today is the 2nd of January. And this is right on time because we can contemplate, we can reflect upon the past year and figure out, set the goals for the next year with the light of guidance from the life of Bibi Fatima Zahra. Salamullahi alayha, inshallah. So that's the program for today. I am going to invite our guest for today. It is my dearest sister, Mahnaz Shabbir. She's been on our program before. It's a great pleasure to have her again on our program. And I am going to introduce her to you in a second. She doesn't need any introduction. And for those of you who are new to the program, I would like to spend a little bit of time talking about her. She is a very busy lady, and I'm really happy that she's able to join us for a few minutes to talk about the life and legacy of Bibi Fatima Zahra. So here is her bio. Mahnaz Shabbir is a president of Shabbir Advisors, a consulting company focusing on planning, marketing, public relations, diversity transformations, and education on a national and international basis. Shabbir is on the faculty at Avila University and has been a lecturer at the Command and General Staff College at Fort Leavenworth. She is a certified trainer for the Department of Justice, Community Relations, Services to educate law enforcement, government agency, and school officials nationwide. Mahnaz Shabbir earned a bachelor's degree in business administration and an MBA from the University of Missouri, Kansas City. She is very involved in community boards ranging from the Crescent Peace Society, Truman Medical Centers, Overland Park Police Board, and Greater Kansas City Interfaith Council. She has written for a wide range of publications and participated in television, radio, and streaming broadcasts. She was born in the US. And with that, it's a great pleasure to invite Mahnaz Shabbir. And also I have to tell you, adding to that bio, that one of the greatest things is that she is my sister-in-law. And so you'll hear me during the program calling her Bhabhi, and that's because she's my sister-in-law, and more than sister-in-law, she is my dearest sister. So welcome, Mahnaz Shabbir. I'm glad you made the time to join us today. And viewers, you can see from the bio, I read that this is a very busy lady. She's on the board of the police department, and from time to time, she'll tell me that she goes there to do diversity training, to teach them about Islam, which is so needed nowadays. We know what's going on with the police, and so she's very involved. So Mahnaz, welcome.
Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. Shaheen. Thank you, Shaheen. It's Sheher Banu. I have to also call you Sheher since I call you Shaheen. Uh, so it's my pleasure being on Velayat TV again with you to talk about a very wonderful topic. So I think this is I love to talk about Bibi Fatima and strategic planning because we have to talk about how we look forward to the next year. So
Great, great. So let's start the program with the usual thing we do, which is talking about the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, followed by the saying of our dearest Mawla, and then we'll inshallah shed light on the Lady of Light. So the name that I have picked for today is Al Hayy, which is the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which means the ever living. It's a very appropriate name for us to recite, especially as the new year begins, because it also means something that revitalizes us, something that energizes us. And when I read how many times you have to recite this name, it said 300,000 times. So we can imagine how many times we are going to recite. So let's just say that whenever we have time, inshallah, we are going to say, Ya Hayyu, Ya Hayyu. And we that are from India and Pakistan background, we tend not to say the ha when we say, like when we pronounce that word, like for example, hayu, we tend to not say the ha part. And so one of the things I'm doing is learning tajweed, how to pronounce Quran properly. And I have a class every day from 8 to 8:30 in the morning. So my teacher, whenever I recite something that has that letter ha, she will tell me, like say it with a clean breath. So we have to like remember to say ya hayu. So just say like hot, like how we say hot. We have to like emphasize that ha. So inshallah, we are going to keep reciting Ya Hayyu, Ya Hayyu as much as possible. And that's going to energize us for now and for the rest of the year, inshallah. And now let's see, let's do the saying of our Mawla. And the one that I found, it's very beautiful. And it is right along the topic for us today, which is starting with contemplation, starting with reflection, how important it is that we reflect back on our life for the past year, and then we set our goals for the next year, what all we are going to accomplish, inshallah. So our Mawla says, contemplation invites man towards good deed and its performance. التفكر يدعو إلى البر والعمل به. So that's in Arabic. So we need to reflect. Allah also says in the Holy Quran lots of times that these ayats, these signs are for the people that reflect. A lot of times you'll find that in the Holy Quran. And the signs of Allah, of course, is the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the skies, the seas, the oceans, the beautiful flowers that we enjoy, the food that we enjoy. All of these are signs of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. His signs are the ayats of the Quran. His signs are also the holy alphabet. And so Allah says, reflect upon my signs, which is also the lives of the holy alphabet, which is inshallah something we are going to do today. So reflection is important because we can reflect upon and then we can set goals. And I have to tell you that Mahnaz, being so very busy, she prioritizes her time and she's going to spend a little bit of time telling us about how to set goals.
yes. So before we look into the future, we have to know where we have been. So I'd like for you to sometime, as you think about goals for the future, so think about what you've accomplished last year. And I think we can say, oh, it's been such a challenging year. I didn't get to have the things that I wanted to get done. Other other priorities took place, or I didn't have the opportunities. And I think if you really think hard, you'll find that you had accomplishments. Um, so I think it's always good to acknowledge the things that you have accomplished. So whatever it could be in your personal life, it could be in your work life, it could be um, in the organizations that you may participate in, that you're an active member in, to think about what it is that you actually accomplished. And I'm sure then once you look at that list, you start saying, oh, well, wasn't that bad of it. It was a very challenging year. But you'll see
It
that
was
the
a
things
challenging year.
it was a very challenging year. I know. And for some, it's a very sad year too, because they may have lost a loved one. And so
Yeah.
it's it's like this balance though, is to say, okay, all these horrible things were happening in the world, um, but then also there were things that we were doing that we were able to do still in the midst of this time period. And one of the things I want you to think about is that even when we weren't able to do the things that we were doing, and we've all of a sudden we're looking at our calendar and things were being canceled, things that we had planned, we realize that we are living in a world of uncertainty. And then you come to think about it, well, we're always living in a world of uncertainty. We always are. It's just right now, it's like highlighted and it's bold that it is uncertain. So, even in the midst of all of that, is just to take that into consideration that I'm going to do some thinking about what I'd like to accomplish for this coming year, but also know that there are other things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to have more control over, and to be able to change when things change and not to say, oh, what happened? I didn't get this done, and to be upset with something. So just to look at your own goals for this coming year as a means of helping you get through things, even though there's this big noise called the pandemic in the background. But what are the things that you do have some say in your own area of control? So I just want to put that as a premise. So first, think about your accomplishments that you've had, and then think about um, what are the things you want to give up on. So and leave that in the past. So like you could say that I wasn't able to travel. I wasn't able to go to parties or weddings or whatever it is, or go to
Yeah.
the Imam Barga. I wasn't able to
Yeah.
do all these things, and say, okay, you weren't able to do it, but there were other things that did come in place. So, like for example, even though like during Muharram everybody was doing it online, and it was very challenging. I was talking to someone who was saying that they didn't even feel like it was Muharram for them. But then I said, well, for my parents who are homebound and they're elderly, it was the best way for them to participate. Otherwise, they would not have been able to go to the Imam
Oh, yeah.
anyway. And so we have to look that there's both sides to something. So leave that in the past, all the complaints and the negatives, and then take a new sheet of paper, just it's blank.
Yes.
In fact, you have a new novel, so to speak, of your life to write about, um,
Inshallah.
and to think about what is it that you want to accomplish. And so, in that area, I have an acronym that is used in business. It's called SMART. So it's specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time based. So SMART, SMART. So think about something specific that you want to accomplish. I think when we're home, one of the best things that we can do is something that you even talked about, that you're doing the Quran classes in the morning. Um, if you were going to work at 8 o'clock in the morning, leaving for work,
Yeah.
would not be able to do these things, right? And that's something actually I have also started doing. So for me, the whole connection to the Quran has been one of my goals, that kind of surfaced during Ramadan this last year, because we were stuck at home and we might as well, make lemonade with what's happening. And so I too took
Be
classes, and I've
flexible,
been
like
taking,
you said. Be flexible.
yeah, to do that. So make sure that they're specific about what it is, make it measurable. So, like, what is it that you want to accomplish by when? So that way you can go back and see, okay, did I do it or not? If you just say, oh, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, but then you don't, no, let's say, I want to lose weight. That would be unmeasurable. But you don't say 10 pounds, then you won't know if you accomplished your. So write it down, be specific with some kind of number. That way you know whether you accomplished it or not, and then say by when. So a lot of people just say, oh, I'm going to do, whatever. And they don't say by when. So that's that's really important because it could be just perpetuating every year. We'll be back at December 31st
Mhm.
of 2021 and we'll have the same goal again. And it could be, but we want to make sure that we are being relevant to whatever is happening. That's the other piece with this pandemic, this time of uncertainty, make it relevant to it, and then put the time frame of what you want to accomplish. So that's called a SMART goal. And you can apply it for work, you can apply it for your personal life, and anywhere that you show up in any organization. So I think these are the things that I would look at. Like for me, one of the things that I had put in here was, so I've already written some goals, of course. So I don't
So you
call it
already have your
resolution.
goal written down for the year. That's
Yeah,
impressive.
and so then some of the things also is to realize that that these goals or these things are, you can adjust them over time. So, and it could be even relationships you have with people. So one of the things people are complaining, well, I haven't been able to see so and so, or I haven't been able to touch that person or hug, like a family member. But where are you in your relationships? Because time is still ticking. Time is going by, and all the should haves and would haves and could haves could be occurring, and then something could happen, and then you'll say, "Oh, I should have called that person. Oh, I should have." So one of the
Yeah.
things I wrote down was to have more passion with my relationships with family members. So, so first we have to create whatever it is that we're going to do. Like I want to be more connected to my family members, and then have it put into practice. So what am I going to do that? Well, I'll be doing more phone calls or doing more FaceTiming or Zoom calls, whatever it is. I think that's important to actually accomplish. So I think so. Yeah. So the other thing I have, I did have um, the COVID-15. So losing weight is one is one of my goals. And the other one I think is important that for everyone is to have more gratitude. I think that people forget about gratitude. Um,
Yes.
there's
That
so
is
much
so very important.
to be more thankful to Allah
Yeah.
subhanahu wa ta'ala, to our relationships, to the people that we are connected with, and to remember about that. So that I put as one of my goals. So it doesn't have to be actually tangible things like the losing weight or reading the Quran. I mean, these are things you can say, but then there's emotional goals of relationship that you have. And I think that if you take some of these on, with Bibi, like you think about how Bibi Fatima was so connected with her father, like they were almost like one, right? And so I think that that kind of a connection that if we can have with people in our lives, or similar to that, will bring so much benefit to not just you, but to the people that you're with. That they will feel, wow, like Sheher was here, and I'm so glad that I got a call from her today. It made me feel so good, that kind of thing. So that's what
Yeah,
that's one of the things.
that's so important.
So that's something
That's
you
so
can. So
important.
take a piece of paper, take a blank paper, write down the things you accomplished in the past, and then put all the negatives. Write those down and put that in the past because you don't want to carry that with you into the future. And then think about what is it that you want to accomplish in the next 365 days. And And some of these goals could be, you accomplish it this year, and maybe there's something else that you build on to it for the following year, because a year is just 365 days, but some goals can take longer, you know. So this way you're starting to break up that big project or whatever it is, and take small chunks over time.
Very important points. So inshallah, that's what I'm going to do as well, to make the past stay in the past, but learn from the past when we go on to the future. And inshallah, this year is going to be the best year of our lives for all of us, inshallah.
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 Yeah.
Inshallah.
And
But
then
you also, Sister Mahnaz, you also mentioned something that will lead us into our discussion, which is about Bibi Fatima's relationship with her family, with people around her. Her relationship with her mother, even though she was very young when her mother passed away, her relationship with her father, which was so very special, because her father then calls her Umme Abiha, the mother of her father, is one of her titles. And then when our Maula Ali says that we were like pigeons in a cocoon, that's like, if you think about that, like pigeons, how they all stay together. When they fly together, and like they eat together. So that is the household of the Prophet, the house of love, the house of blessings, the house that Allah has set apart from other homes, saying that these are the homes where Allah's name is mentioned day and night. These are the homes that are elevated above all of the homes. So that's something. So this is a house where there is so much love. We hear from Hadith Kisa. When we recite Hadith Kisa, we learn about how much love the family had for each other and how important that was. Because when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is introducing the household of the Prophet, they are introduced through Bibi Fatima Zahra, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, Hum Ahle Baytin Nabuwa wa Madan Risala, Hum Fatimatu wa Abuha wa Ba'aluha wa Banuha. That is so very beautiful, that this is Fatima, her father, her husband, and her sons. So there's this beautiful relationship that Bibi Fatima has.
Yes, I think as a mother, sometimes I think we forget about how important our role is. About if something's not off, if something's not working in the household, it's usually has to go back to the mom to say, okay, what's going on? Um, One of my boys used to say, "Mom, if anything happened to you, this house would just fall apart." And so I think the mother is such the backbone, and I think Bibi Fatima shows how she was able to do that, and she was like the backbone of all of that. And Hadith Kisa just shows her importance, and to be introduced all the people that are so important in our faith, but how the relationship is with her. Um, and then you think about, okay, how can I bring that into my own household? How do I pass this on so my family is connected with me? Because when you get older, that's also going to be an important factor. Because after the kids grow up and they're out of the house, how do we connect with them as adults as well? So no, I think we can learn so much from Bibi Fatima in that way.
And then the other thing about Hadith Kisa also is that everybody goes through Bibi Fatima when they go towards towards Rasulullah. They have to pass through Bibi Fatima Zahra, Salamullahi Alaiha, because they take her permission before they go to the Prophet. So she's like the root of everything. She's, as you mentioned, she's the backbone of the whole family. She's the backbone of, like our Imams, because there is the hadith that she is hujjah over us. So she is such an important figure. And when we think about when Islam was brought forth by the Prophet, when he started proclaiming the message of Islam, where was the society then? They would bury their female girls alive. And then we see this important position of Bibi Fatima Zahra, who changes the whole world. And before her, it's Bibi Khadijatul Kubra. And so Bibi Fatima Zahra, she has broken all the norms of the society by the way she was from her childhood, following the footsteps of her mother, because we know that Bibi Khadija al-Kubra, she had her own business, which was very unusual for somebody at that in that age. She managed her business so well. She was a businesswoman of today. Like if she was alive today, I would say she probably would be like an owner of like Amazon. She probably would be, because her business was at that scale at that time. Her caravans would go to Syria and Yemen. She would manage her own business. She would give away money in charity. And the Prophet says that it is because of the money of Bibi Khadija al-Kubra that Islam was brought forth. That people like we enjoy Islam today because of all the sacrifices of Bibi Khadija and then the Holy Ahl Bayt.
Yes, she is. When I talk about her in some of my presentations, both Bibi Fatima and Bibi Khadija, about their background, people wonder why don't hear about it. Well, why don't we know about her? Bibi
Yeah,
Zainab,
really.
I talk about her and her courage, and so I said, well, it's been designed that you not hear. That's why I'm here to talk about her, because Islam came through a woman. And so if there wasn't Bibi Fatima, there wouldn't be the imamat that came after her, or with her, I should say. And so, um, and when people hear this story, they're like, what? It doesn't fit the paradigm they think of Muslim women. And then, of course, like what you're saying about Bibi Khadija, about her business, that she was a businesswoman, and she is the one who proposed marriage. And
He's
so,
the one who proposed. Yeah, that's another thing. Breaking the
yeah, I mean,
norms.
yeah, I
Even
mean, it
today,
was
that's
like,
like an extraordinary thing, even today.
yeah. So women out there who are not married, you can do that too. You have a
That's
permission
right.
if you somebody you want to do it. You should be able to do that. But I think we sometimes forget about the strength that these women have endured and brought to us, that we can use them as examples for ourselves. And so she was this woman that kept the family together. She was the woman, Bibi Fatima, and Bibi Khadija, even when there was no agreement. I mean, she was by herself when she had gave birth to Bibi Fatima. So it's an interesting concept that here she was, that going from the darkness of before Islam, and then with Bibi Fatima's present, how light came, and how she just changed the world for women, um, with her birth. And so when we think, sometimes people talk about feminism, and sometimes people have a negative connotation with that. I would say put that in the past as well as your negative connotation with feminism, and look and see that Bibi Fatima was basically a feminist, as well as she was dealing with the people who didn't agree with um, how they were treating her father when he was bringing Islam into the to the people, how she was the one that was there to support him, and then later on, after his passing, how she was with Imam Ali alayhi salam to make sure that she didn't, lose her rights. And so I think this whole thing about, for women and women's rights, she was like the queen of all of that for us to emulate.
He's a role
Um,
model.
yeah, because we're going from, like I said, the dark, very dark, where they were killing girls, to the place where inheritance, that women could own inheritance. That's another thing I say, when did that happen in the Western world? And then people think, oh yeah, it didn't happen till the early 1900s, late 1800s, and here it was in the 600, common era.
Yeah.
So they're like, oh, we didn't know that. I said, yeah, we women was given so many rights, with Bibi Fatima's presence, that we want to make sure that all of this is not lost in today's societies.
Yeah. So looking back at her life at a very young age, we see her walking with her father to the bazaars, holding his hand while she watches him debate with people who are very negative about, like the message of Islam, and then walking back with her father from the bazaars to the house. We see her protecting her father first when people throw trash at him or throw, like other garbage at him. And we know that in one instance it was the insides of a camel that were thrown on the Prophet's back when he was praying. And the narration says that baby Fatima Zahra, she was maybe like 6 or 7 years old, and she walks up to her father, cleans his back, and then she turns around and she scolds these grown people. Abu Jahl was one of them who had done this act, and they back away. So you can imagine her courage that at this young age, she has learned to speak out against oppression, speak out against injustice, speak out against cruelty. And then throughout her life, like we can take examples of what happened during the last part of her life when she stood up for the rights of Maula Ali. She was one of the first martyr to die protecting the Velayat of Maula Ali. She's one of the first martyrs, and she didn't back down. She When she had to go to court, she went to the court to fight for her rights. Her famous khutbah that was given for fighting for the rights that she had, that Bagh Fidak, that garden of Fadak, was taken away from her, snatched away from her. When she stood in that court, she was fighting for the rights of every woman for all times.
Yeah. I think that example of speaking out and then when there's injustice is another area that we can bring into our lives today when we're seeing injustice that's being played out, like with the Black Lives Matter, the racial injustice that's out there, and this is like an interesting thing for me because I'm on the police board, right? And
That's
we
right.
have to make so I know this, and I am one of those. I'm one of the. I am a squeaky wheel. When I see something, I say something. So uh, it's a very you have to. I mean, I think we have examples like of Bibi Fatima of what she did. I mean, she put her life on the line there, and I so even when you are doing whatever it is that you feel that you have to say, we may not put our life on the line, but it may people may not appreciate everything that you have to say, but it needs to be said. So I think if you're concerned or if you're worried, take the strength of what Bibi Fatima had to endure and during that time period of what she had to go through to communicate the injustice and just even a little bit, just take a little bit of that and bring it into your own being to see, okay, how can I get this strength and what do I need to say so people hear what I have to say and then make a change. Because I think there's another saying about being the change you want to see. You have to be that change. We can't wait for somebody else to do it. We have to look when there's a concept when you point a finger at somebody, there's one finger going to somebody, but there's all these other fingers pointing back to you. So it's like, it's you that has to do something. So what are you going to do in the area of injustice, in your own area, wherever you are? I think that's important. And then as a Muslim, it's even more important. I think we have this responsibility to speak about it because that's what our mother has told us, right? Mother of our religion. So I think that's something like even if you feel uncomfortable, just just for that moment, just take a step forward and say it. Like when the first time I went to Fort Leavenworth, I've never been on a military base before, and
So that's a military base in close to Kansas City, right?
yes, it's in Kansas. Yeah, it's like from like 30 minutes from the greater Kansas City area. And I was being asked to speak to these officers. So no matter where the people are in the army, they want to move up in the ranks from a major, a higher, they have to spend 2 years. No matter where in the army, they have to come to Fort Leavenworth for this education. And so they asked me to speak about Islam, so they had a better understanding, since a lot of the U.S. military are in other parts of the world. But the first time I went there, I've never been on a military base. You can imagine I was feeling, okay, I'm going through all this security, and now now I'm in this room with all these people. There were women there too, but they're wearing the fatigues, and now I'm going to stand and speak to them about Islam. It was the first time, and it was right. The first time I did this was right before the war started in Iraq, and I had been talking to so many people about the U.S. senator in Kansas. Spent 2 hours in his office trying to explain to him about why this is not a good idea, about the people. And so when I was in front of this room and the war had already started, I had to say what was in my head, and I said, "I wish this war didn't happen." I just had to say it. I said it in a room full of U.S. military, and I'm saying this. And you know what I heard back? I heard back, "So do we." And then that stopped me, and I was like, what? And then I realized that there was, war is like the last resort. So they really didn't want that either, especially at this level, the level where they were at, because they know the meaning of lives lost. But it was important for me to say that. I had to, so they could see my position about it, but in the area of no agreement. I thought that there was no agreement. So I think after spending a little time with me, I think their perception of Islam and Muslim, especially a Muslim woman, was altered a bit before they were having to go to do what they were going to do.
That's such a great example, Bobby. I'm glad you're doing
scary.
that.
Yeah, it was very scary.
Yeah, you
but
spoke out.
Yeah, I had to speak out.
And you spoke your mind.
It was because that was there. I couldn't go forward without saying what was there for me. I had, and what was comforting for me was to know that there was a listening for that. That there was people that felt the same. But yeah, so I think that we can take so much from
following in the footsteps.
Right, that we can take so much from her and build upon that to be a better person, to be a better Muslim, to be a better person in society.
Yeah. And like you said about relationships, right? We can speak out just between, like looking at the family, and if there's something not right within the family, then we speak out.
Yeah,
And we
speaking
be
out,
the
or I think also when it comes to family, there's you have to be a little mindful, because we have a hierarchy of elder to the younger. We have your own immediate family, and then you branch out. Like, your relationship with your own children is different than you have with your parents, or with like for me, I have daughter-in-laws, I have in-laws. And so how do you say what needs to be said in a manner that's respectful, but
Yeah.
also brings people together? So
Yeah.
sometimes in as you know, in my role of being where I am, I can sometimes say things that maybe someone else may not be able to say something. And there could be a more of a listening. So it's also, maybe it's not you that needs to say it because of where you are in the family
Yeah.
dynamics, but if you have the ear of someone else who can say it, to bring it. I mean, that's also an instigator. That's also the way of
That's such
helping.
a great advice.
So it's being mindful about that too, because you don't want to hurt anyone. You don't. I mean, the whole goal is to be better, to have harmony. It's not to be divisive or to hurt anyone. So I think
Certainly, yeah.
I think in that way. But as Bibi Fatima did, she had to say what needed to be said. So I think that's what we can look to her for that guidance.
Yeah. And then her shahadat itself. It is so very sad that she was only 18 years of age and she had lived her whole life in those 18 years. We see her role as a daughter, we see her role as a mother, as a wife, as somebody who is giving out charity the little that they had, like that beautiful narration about giving out um, the after fasting for 3 days, how they handed out their bread for 3 consecutive days, and then they were so very sad. I mean, they were so very weak after that happened, that the prophet, when he stepped into the house, he saw that they were going to perish with lack of food. That was their state, but they gave away their bread, that compassion, that kindness. So it is, her life was a life of strife. It was a life that was a very harsh life. She lived through, those 18 years. She saw everything. She saw the treachery of the people around her after, the prophet had already announced who the successor is going to be. She saw the treachery of the people, what they did for their own personal gains. And when she left the world, it was under those harsh conditions again.
And she came into the world where there was an agreement, and she left the world in a brutal way. And so it's too bad that's how her life was in those bookends. But that was her life on earth. It doesn't include the life that came
That's right.
after her passing, right? And I think that's something that we don't think about even our own impact on others, like the ripple effect. So even in her passing and what she did, she stood up for the imamate of Islam, and she saw the injustice that was being done. So I think that she has shown about, again, how we should be living our life as far as being a Muslim. And we can be so grateful for her sacrifices that she had done. Um, and we are the fruit of that. We can continue on with what she had left us, these tools that we can continue on in that manner.
Certainly, Bobby. And then her shahadat itself, right? She was pregnant with baby Mohsen, and she was there answering the door, protecting Maula Ali. And we know what happened then, that the door fell on her and she lost her baby and her ribs were crushed. And when Maula went to do the ghusl for Bibi Fatimatu Zahra Salamullahi alaiha, that is when he discovers what her condition was. That is so very sad when you think about that.
Yeah, because she didn't voice what what had happened to her. So until that time, it was I don't think it was known how severe her injury was. So it is very sad to know that that's how in those days that this could happen to someone, and to suffer how she had suffered at the end of her life as she did, um, and then Imam Ali having to do the whistle and to bury her. Um, I can't even imagine what that was like for him, because he knew that she was the backbone of this family. She was the person, but even in her life, she was even thinking about her children as her life was leaving her. She was thinking about who was going to raise her children. I think this is like an important part for a woman to think about as well. And so, I mean, she was already thinking ahead. She was like, you know, we're talking about goals. She was thinking ahead of what will happen after she is gone. And so I think that these are the same thing. We have to think ahead about what, again, let's take that example and put it to ourselves. Have we done our will? You know, have we written the guardianship for our children if something should happen to both the mother and the father? Who would raise the children? These are the things that we should be looking to do as well. Um, because I think sometimes people say, if I talk about it, it'll happen. Well, no, but if you talk about it, you're planning and you have these things in place. And so I think she talked about it. I mean, in those days, they didn't have all that legalness that we have in Western society. But I think we can learn from her that even on her deathbed, she was thinking about who's going to take care of her children.
Yep. So these are the days when we look at her life, the legacy that she left behind. And there, I know that with the pandemic, we are not able to go to majlises in each other's homes like we would in the past. But everything is available on Zoom and other internet sites, so we can attend these majlises online. Actually, today there is a majlis at my aunt's house. She does it every year, and it's going to be on Zoom. And I'll send you a link, inshallah, if you can attend. So that's what we are going to do. Look back at our lives and then make sure that we walk on the footsteps of Bibi Fatima Zahra, taking examples from her life and applying it to what's happening right now. Because that is the light of guidance that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, this is a straight path that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants us to follow. So any closing words, Bhabi, before we recite the dua?
I think, again, just to remember that even in the time of uncertainty, which is where we're living, I mean, and to remember that we're always living in uncertainty.
That's
That
right.
we never know when we're in our car and we're driving, something could happen. But the pandemic has just put a spotlight on the uncertainty. So knowing that, again, it's on the mindset that this is what it is. How can we be a better person? How can we use Bibi Fatima's light to guide us in this time of uncertainty? And to be not just a better Muslim, but a better person, to be a better family member, to be a better person in society.
Inshallah.
So those are the things I would say in closing.
Inshallah. Thank you for the time, Bhabi. Thank you, Mahnaz, for spending the time with us and sharing your thoughts, your advices. Those are all golden words, inshallah. I'm going to sit down and write my goals for this year. And yes, inshallah, I'll do that. And actually, I owe a letter, a thank you letter to somebody, which I'm going to do as well. It was on my plate, but I hadn't done it. So inshallah, I'll do that. It's a nurse that took care of my dad, and she really went out of her way. So I have to thank her for her kindness. And then another letter about how I'm going to be a different person, inshallah, that I write to myself. That's part of my goals. Inshallah, I'll do that. So, my dear viewers, with that, we want to conclude our program with duas. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار رب ارحمهما كما ربياني صغيرا ربنا هب لنا من أزواجنا وذرياتنا قرة أعين وجعلنا للمتقين إماما اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.